Welcome to my second video of the APN question and answer series on family life and relationships. APN means Ask Pastor Nike, and I am Nike Ayola. Now, a quick pause to give a happy birthday shout out to my pastor, big sister, and mentor, Joyce Abimbola Deyinka, who is celebrating this weekend. Now, you don't know the joy of sharing a birthday, with someone who has so wonderfully impacted your life. I am specially blessed. So let me continue with my specially crafted quote for this series, and this is it. The Bible is God's blueprint for choice. It is clear on what must drive our desires so we can please God and also derive maximum benefits from our choices. What this translates into is that the goal or aim or expected end from the videos of this series, what you can or should expect from my answers are biblical, faith-driven, and godly, Holy Spirit activated empowerment to do or change or become responses and action points that will help us to please God and have the best relationships at the same time. So, wherever you are standing on the timeline of any of the questions, whether you are looking forward, in which case the situation is either occurring or possibly can in your future, or you're looking backward, where you've already passed through or somehow you've managed, to navigate your way around such situations, I need you to understand that no knowledge is ever wasted. God never wastes his resources, and your contact with these videos can either be for personal gain or for the benefit of someone else. So please pay close attention. Now, question number 2 is in 2 parts, and it's about navigating friendships between men and women. Part A: how can we manage a close friendship with someone of the opposite gender, especially when one of the two persons begins to develop feelings? And part B is also closely related. Sometimes a guy or girl may just be kind, but it can be misread as romantic interest. How can we tell the difference between platonic kindness and a green light? Now let's start with part A of the question. Close friendship between a boy and a girl, or a man and a woman without a romantic connotation. Now, I think the key phrase to me here is close friendship. And I believe it's asking about close friendship between two people of the opposite gender, who are not in or planning to be in a romantic relationship. So, you see, close friendship between two people of the same gender can be somewhat acceptable. And close friendship between two people of opposite genders can also be great. That is, if there are other connections already in place between them. For example, if they're already like siblings, then a close friendship is definitely a plus. But of course, with the understanding that close family ties have to be unraveled when a romantic interest comes into the picture. And I'm actually talking about real siblings of opposite gender being in close friendship, and not like some distant cousin or people with some spurious, extended family connection, like we Africans like to refer to even our neighbors as family. And this also includes faith-based brotherhood and sisterhood, or in other words, brethren or church folks. Yeah. Close but undefined friendship with a Christian brother or sister of the opposite gender, even with the best of intentions, is never advisable because it's disaster cooking a meal that will be served in the process of time. Look, it's a definite setup for unwanted feelings showing up sometime, with at least one person getting hurt on the long run. Now, the usual storyline is about needing, to get to know the person you are dating or seeing. That's why some think it's okay, to have undefined relationships or close friendships with someone of the opposite gender because, well, they want to try and see what is possible. But they don't realize that there is a difference between regular dating and Christian dating or courtship. And it is that with Christian dating, intentions should be clearly spelled out from the beginning. Dating or seeing someone among believers is not supposed to be a trial and error situation, that probably leaves broken hearts in his wake, but a faith walk, where you trust the Holy Spirit for guidance up front because he knows where you should be going. Remember that the just, that is every child of God, must live by his or her faith. It's non-negotiable. Now, a close friendship with anybody of the opposite gender who is not a sibling or an immediate family member should have a destination from the onset. Now, it doesn't mean that every close friendship will decidedly land in the expected end, but at least you create the opportunity for the Spirit to work with you without any gray areas or unwanted and unexpected feelings cropping up. Look, if you're not going to eat the meal, don't even smell it, whether you're a man or a woman. This is one of the ways of putting a stop to deceivers, wolves in sheep's clothing, who likes to come around fellowships to defraud innocent and gullible sisters and brothers. And yes, many men are actually very gullible. So, brothers too. It is true that a man chases a woman until she catches him. I guess what I'm saying in essence is that the best way to prevent development of unwanted feelings between two people who have no intention or possibility of having a romantic relationship is to avoid close friendships with any unrelated person of the opposite gender, like the plague. And talking about possibility here includes those who are already in another relationship or are never going to be thinking of that friend in a romantic or love sense. It includes those who claim that their best friend is someone of the opposite gender who they have no intention of marrying. Look, it is better to be safe than sorry. Now, let me tackle the second part of the question next. It asks, sometimes a guy or girl may just be kind, but that kindness can be misread as romantic interest. How can we tell the difference between genuine kindness and a green light? Now, this is my point exactly. Unless you are a mind reader, and no human being can do that accurately most of the time, because God already declares that we humans, we look on the external, like, the appearance or outward packaging, while He alone has the capability of looking at the heart. It is very difficult to separate platonic kindness from a green light, especially if either the kind person or the recipient of the kindness is single and available. In any case, actions and emotions, that start off as altruistic can later become egoistic without any warning, particularly if it is nurtured by good reception and appreciation from the recipient. You see, as human beings, we are wired to love because. This is to say that our love normally comes with a reason. Love that is not anchored to a reason is actually possible, but very rare because it's not sustainable for human beings. And the capacity of our positive emotions is not limitless, because we are human and not God. And what that means is that if you are expending emotional currency in a particular direction, but it's not where you should be spending it, you'll be robbing someone or something that is truly deserving of the same. And can I also add, for those of us who are the altogether nice lady or gentleman, that the onus is on us and not on the other person, who can likely misconstrue our good gestures to make sure that our kindness is not misread or misunderstood as sending a green light. Romans 14 and verse 16 says, "Therefore, do not let what you consider good be spoken of as evil." Whatever friendships or relationships you cultivate, and whether you're single, engaged, or married, you will need to be intentional about not being spuriously nice or kind to anyone you know is single and still searching. It will be tantamount to playing with their feelings and emotions, raising his or her hopes when you know what the outcome would be if you are just nice to someone who is looking for a reason to cling in the first place. I want to assure you that God will not take kindly to anyone toying with the emotions of his child. And of course, we do have some people, for whom it's just their nature to be nice. Just as we have some people who read a meaning into virtually everything, people who see a roaring fire where there was literally no smoke or even a spark. So it's important to remember that you have no control over how such people can deliberately misinterpret others' good gestures or kind acts. But you do have control over, or at least you should have control over your own actions and words and responses. I guess that's why God puts the onus on us, the person showing kindness, to ensure that our kindness doesn't become a problem for a fellow brother or sister. Let me round up with the instruction from Romans 14:15, that should guide our actions and gestures, even if there are natural tendencies or default reactions. And even though it's making particular reference to what you believe is right for you to eat, I believe the message and extrapolation is clearly unambiguous. And if another believer is distressed by what you eat, you are not acting in love if you eat it. Don't let your eating ruin someone for whom Christ died. Another interesting question will be addressed in the next video. Please remember to drop your comments, your questions, and additions in the chat box, and help my channel by sharing this video with your contacts and friends. And until next weekend, keep walking closely with the Lord. Shalom.